Welcome back. We are joined now by Eva Gladek, who is the founder and CEO of Metabolic. Welcome to Sidebar.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, so you were on the main stage yesterday with the lightning talk, but for people who were not able to tune in and who are unfamiliar with your company, can you just share a little bit more about what you all do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Metabolic is what I call a systems change agency. I set it up around 10 years ago. So it's turning 10 this year, and I was working in sustainability consulting, and I was really frustrated with the lack of action, with the lack of actually things getting done. So I thought I would set up this organization focused on driving systems change and engineering systems change. So it actually consists of 8 different organizations at this point, because you need a multifaceted approach to that. So we have a consultancy, we have a venture building company, we have a software company. All of these work together. So the consultancy identifies places in the market where we think are leverage points, where you can take action to really drive forward a certain change, and then we can act on that through the different other divisions and build targeted ventures to solve certain problems. Like we have an energy company that we've built, for example. So it's a complex ecosystem, but the whole point is driving forward the transition to a sustainable economy as fast as possible.
So 10 years ago, circular economy wasn't really a big thing. I don't think it was a phrase used by many people. How did you shift to expand into that?
We were actually already using that term 10 years ago.
Wow.
And back then we were really among the first. I would say though we're not, strictly speaking, we're known as circular economy experts, but we're not like only focusing on the circular economy. Words are important, but I also feel like if you think of the circular economy holistically, like if you say, okay, yeah, we need to close resource loops, but we need to do that in a just way, in an equitable way. That's one of the things that I talked about, or I touched on yesterday in my super short talk. But also, you can close resource loops in a way that keep toxic materials circulating. You don't want to do that. You don't want to close resource loops in a way that increase energy demand and then increase carbon emissions. So ultimately, if you look at it holistically, we're talking about the same objective, whether you're talking about sustainability or circularity, which is an economy that functions within planetary boundaries and allows for the flourishing of all living things, including humans, and allows for all people to reach levels of self-actualization. That's what we're striving for, and whether you look at it through the material lens or through a social equity lens, doesn't really matter what your entry point is. We're going toward the same direction.
Got it. So earlier you mentioned all these different businesses that function within Metabolic. I'm curious about how you all decide what business to launch. Like, how do you decide which sectors?
Yeah, so so the 5 main businesses within the core of Metabolic are kind of fixed and they all work together. But then in terms of the ventures that we build that are focused on much more specific areas, we have our venture building team. It's an organization, it's a nonprofit. They have developed a systemic venture building approach. So they find people who are really passionate about a certain problem area or topic and then guide them through the process of understanding the system they're trying to change and figuring out where their skills align most with the type of changes that are needed. So they either build a nonprofit or a for-profit. So we just ran a 6-month program focused on regenerative agriculture with 30 entrepreneurs. So it was an in-person program in the Netherlands. We brought people from around the world, and we had investors ready at the end of that pipeline to invest in 4 of those ventures. So that's kind of the approach that we take now. Initially, like the first time we built a venture, before we had a venture building division, we actually just had a competition in the team to say, okay, what do you think our next venture should be? What do you think has the most impact? And people were basically pitching to say, this is what we should do. And that's when we built our energy company, Spectral Energy. Which does like large-scale energy management on the grid. So they figure out, they control over 50% of the large batteries in the Netherlands that are connected to solar and wind farms, and they figure out whether to put the power onto the grid or into the battery, and they have all these predictive algorithms about when there's going to be excess power, et cetera. So that's quite specific. It didn't start out that way. It started out as like a very different business.
So we're close to finishing, but so I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to be interested in reaching out to you. So how do they get in touch with Metabolic?
Yeah, I mean, so you can find Metabolic on all the usual channels, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me directly. If you write to me on LinkedIn, you will reach my assistant who manages that. We have an info@metabolic.com email address that you can send any general inquiries to. And our team is always really excited to talk to people who are interested about these topics. We're hiring, we're like everyone else is. So anyway, yeah, lots of ways to reach out.
Awesome, thanks. We've been talking with Eva Gladek, founder and CEO of Metabolic. Thanks, Eva.
Thanks so much.